What's up, guys? Welcome to another one of these I Love You Mana podcast supplemental content, a react to the Pro Tour draft. We are once again backseating the pros, Monday night quarterbacking the pros. And here I'm joined with my friend Mickey. You style yourself as the average drafter.
That's right.
And I would say that if you are in a pod with seven Mickeys, seven average drafters, you're in for a very difficult draft because you were very good at limited.
Well, I just draft. I mean, I style myself the average drafter on the Discord that we're on, the Limited Level Ups Discord. And I just feel like there's so many people that I'm learning from all the time there. And so I just feel woefully average. I like throwing out ideas and learning from people when they correct me when I go wrong. And that helps me learn a ton. So
I mean,
happy to throw out a lot of ideas here.
But to throw off some of your bona fides, like you have cashed an arena open, you have a very impressive win rate on 17 lands. I think you're also incredibly humble. So just to talk you up.
Okay.
Before we go,
I min cashed an arena open, and yeah, my win rate at 17 lands is great. Like I'm fine with it, but it's not.
Well, that's sort of the secret to Magic, right? Is that if you ever think you know what you're doing, you're immediately punished for it.
Right. That's true.
So it's important to have that kind of like, almost like Greek philosopher mentality of I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just trying stuff, because the meta can shift, the format can shift, and everything is swept out from under you. Yeah. But okay, so here we're taking an opportunity to look at the Pro Tour Thunder Junction draft. So this is basically the new set. Like this set has been live on Arena for like 2 weeks.
That's right, yeah.
It was 10 days when they did this draft. It's really very little time to prepare. In fact, I know that for Constructed, a lot of the pros were using cockatrice to like do proxy decks online in order to test. So this is very much of a new format. What has your take been on Thunder Junction? Because I know you played more than me.
I've liked it a lot. It's a tick slower than the most recent formats. I think a lot of people really struggled with the earlier recent formats last Karlov Manor.
You almost made us mess up there.
And Lost Caverns both felt really fast for a lot of people. And this has been a tick slower, and aggro hasn't been king. And so thinking about when to take lands is an interesting decision. And I've liked that. I've liked that a lot. My preferences is the aggro beatdown. So this is really stretching me a lot. Like I'm trying to figure out, picking your places when to use removal or not is not a skill that I have really very strong. And so this has been challenging, but good for me, I think.
Gotcha. I mean, you are a very good aggressive drafter. And as well, maybe get into this draft as a little spoiler for Seth Manfield's draft, where we're about to watch, is that I think Seth is coming at it with a mentality of many of these formats, like Lost Caverns of Ixalan or Karlov Manor. I almost tripped up on it there. But like, I think it does not do him favors in this draft. But I don't want to spoil too much. But before we jump into it, which we will do, we've had some technical difficulties before this. So I'm just going to now pause this recording and ensure that we are in fact picking up the audio.
That sounds good.
All right. So audio is confirmed to be doing just fine. And now we can go ahead and watch this draft without Marshall's commentary. Okay. So day one of the Pro Tour, we're looking at Seth Manfield's picks, and we're going to kind of go slowly. We're going to stop and start and go through it. We didn't get too much into your like thoughts of the format. I guess we did. You mentioned that you were like,
it's a tick slower.
Yeah, it's more. I've heard people describe it as like more boomer Magic in that like. I've heard people, and I hate this term, but I've heard people call it more of a bread format.
Interesting.
Of like bombs removal and, the rest of the part of it, the acronym of bread, which I find really doesn't matter. Yeah. I definitely find that I do want to have a certain number of pieces of removal in my format, in my decks. And you need to have some power. And speaking on this, we have Seth's first pick here, where he opens a what's this?
Stingerback Terror.
Yes, the dragon with plot that has passed. It's a 7/7, but it gets smaller for each card in your hand. And the other choice that Seth is bringing forward is this a lasso.
A mystical tether.
Mystical tether. Sorry, not. There's another lasso card. There's a few other cards in this pack. I will sort of warn the viewer now that the viewing experience of this draft is not great, and so we kind of need to guide guide you through what Seth's actually seeing. There we go, ish. So there's this terror, and there's the lasso, the
mystical tether.
Yeah, and there's not all that much in this pack. I think one of the uncommons is the red spree card that like changes the target of the spell. But like, how do you feel about red? Let's start there.
I think the consensus has been that red is a tough color to navigate through. The commons feel weak. The removal doesn't quite hit all the things that you want to hit.
Yes.
It's just hard to make it work. The Terror is a great card. I would probably take it first, but it is an interesting pick. Tether versus Terror is not. White is a good color. And
then a lot easier to draft, I think.
Yeah, totally. I have not found a lot of comfort in red.
And I think in the Pro Tour, when these very good players have had 10 days to practice this format.
That's true, yeah.
It's just like, if you're coming in there and like these guys know where red sits at the rankings of the colors, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you're starting a draft and you're like, I think like if Seth took Tether here, I would not think that's a mistake. That's where I'm sort of coming at it from.
The other cool thing is that the Stingerback Terror has plot for a single red pip, so It's very splashable. Like
that's true.
You splash it in, and then it comes down turn 6 or something like that as a 6/6 or a 7/7, and it's totally well worth it.
I think the off the press card or the breaking news card is Tyrant Scorn.
Oh yeah,
and which is, I mean, I don't want to start it, but it is a good card. And there's also Lava Spur Boots, which I think I'm looking not to run in my decks.
I've yet to see that do any work for anyone.
Yeah, I think I've definitely seen a lot of players play it because it's sort of reminiscent of commander cards.
That's true.
But I think Seth does take the Stinger back here, which makes a lot of sense. It is a big threat. And maybe his testing team. I always mention when we do these draft reviews is that all these pros have testing teams that have like run through this format, and they know they have a plan if they're getting into red what they're going to do. But I think having gone through this draft, like watching this draft before, it makes Seth's next decision really interesting.
Okay.
And Mickey, you haven't watched this yet, so this is all fresh for you.
That's all fresh, yeah.
So in this pack, he sees a trained Erranx. There's a patient naturalist. There's an explosive derailment. So these are all pretty good commons. There's a Omen Port Vigilante, and there's a few other cards that we can't quite make out. But it seems pretty clear he's deciding between Erranx or explosive derailment, and he's kind of looking at this the patient naturalist here. And of course, he has the red card, but he picks the trained Erranx.
Wow. Okay.
So what are your thoughts here?
That's interesting.
Seth, not Seth. Who's Marshall? Marshall, who's doing commentary here. He points out in the whole draft, he's pointing out that Seth Manfield is like, in drafting, I guess is his style, that he really likes locking down 2-drops. But I think this is kind of where we're getting with this format, is that this format, the 2-drops are largely like, you need 2-drops in limited.
Yeah,
obviously. In many formats, it would be very good advice to take 2-drops early and often.
Yep.
A lot of the 2-drops in the set are pretty bad.
Yeah, a lot of 2-drops are bad.
Erranx isn't. Erranx is good.
Yeah, Erranx is one of the rare good 2-drops.
Yes.
It's a common 2-drop.
Yeah.
Probably the best one. Like the one that I'm most terrified of seeing on turn 2, other than like some of the uncommons, I guess.
I think it is the best aggressive 2-drop in the format.
Oh yeah,
in
totally.
uncommon,
Far
uncommon.
far and away. Uncommon.
So, but like to go red card into 2-drop white card,
That is interesting.
and to pass up derailment, which I think derailment is good.
Yeah, yeah. Derailment is an excellent card if you're in red.
Yeah.
Maybe it's him sort of saying like, okay, I'm going to hold red lightly and take the solid 2-drop. Like you're not going to see too many Aranxes going by.
Yeah, probably at the Pro Tour table here.
Yeah,
and it does open you up to being. And I've liked drafting this kind of deck in this format, which would be like a red green deck. Excuse me.
Okay.
Wait, no, sorry, a white green deck where you
Yes.
splash the terror.
Yeah. Typically, the white green decks, the green golds are great, and they come down early, so it's harder to splash. But yeah,
sure.
that's a good lane. You know, the green white, the splash a good bomb at the top.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I don't know if I think these kind of drafts are so hard. They're like, and I think obviously these players have played at the highest levels before. I wonder when you're kind of been here before, you no longer feel the butterflies or whatever. But like, I think it's really interesting the pressure that this puts on his draft, right?
Okay.
This really, going, red card makes it sort of a lot easier for you to lock up that color, even if it's a weaker color. Going red card, white card, as you see for Seth, is going to cause, it's going to make some decisions a lot harder.
Yeah. Especially passing the tether peck one.
Yeah.
You just know, like, I guess had you passed the Aranx, you would have put the other person in white.
That's true. But, and like, this is going to matter at the Pro Tour where like these signals are matter.
Good 2-drop.
So we got a good 2-drop. We've got the Roadrunner. And then there's the Prairie Dog, which is another powerful card. And there's also the breaking news card is Collective Defiance.
Okay.
Which is a good removal spell. Actually, what does that spell do?
I
don't think I've ever read the full thing.
Yeah, it's 3 damage to a creature, 4 damage to a player, I think.
Ooh.
Or
but you can do both if you pay more mana, right?
I think it's like Escalate or whatever.
I did not play. I think that was from like either Revolt or one of those sets.
Yeah. The numbers may be a little bit different, but yeah.
But Seth does take here the Prairie Dog.
Okay.
So again, biasing himself towards 2s.
Yeah.
But like, sort of again here, there was a lane to go red card.
Yeah.
He could have gone, Terror, the Dragon, into Derailment, into Collected Defiance. Or he could have taken the Roadrunner. And the Roadrunner I don't think is like an amazing card. But like it would let him be monocolor.
Yeah.
So the other cards in this pack, there's some blue, there's a Lazav, there's a Fairy, Phantom Interference.
Okay.
But like these are not the cards that I'm willing to dip into to blue for here. So the next pack we see a Thunder Salvo. We see the Red Rock Sentinel. There's a Coyote here, Cunning Coyote, and there's a what is it? The Angry Townsfolk.
Okay, the white
card. But now he takes a red card. So he's got 2 red cards and 2 white cards. And this is kind of what I mean about the tension, right? Because right now, he could have taken 4 red cards in a row.
Yeah, well, he just got three good 2-drops.
That's
the Coyote
really
is excellent card. It's one of the best 2-drops, I think. It's certainly the best one in red.
Yeah, but red's got problems.
Yeah.
In that, like, you need it to be pasting in big, powerful threats. The Coyote here, and just as Seth makes his following pick, his 5th pick, the Coyote has plot. I think his plot is 2 mana, right?
Yep. Plot's 2.
And then it gives another creature +1/+1 in haste.
And haste, yep. When it comes in.
So it's kind of a good like Gruul card in that you really want it to haste out like a beater. It's kind of like it's not even the dream. The kind of what you want to set up is it into like Drover Grizzly or something like that, where you're like hitting now with a 2-drop and a 5-power creature, and you're making it very tough for them. In red whites, it might be weaker. It's crazy though, like the stats of that card. If you would have asked me, I remember when the format comes out, there's all these people asking like, what's your top common, what's your top uncommon? And I think like the Coyote, I definitely was like, that's going to be a red's top uncommon. And its win rate is really poor.
Right now. I have not been tracking those win rates. I mean, there's that red 3/3. That's the Gruul card. It's like whenever you attack, if you attack with it and you've got a power 4 or greater, then you make a 3/1.
No, that is the dream.
That's the red dream, because it's 2 in a red and it's a 3/3. So you plot the Coyote and then you cast that and unplot and hit them for
6, and then you make a 3/1.
Yeah,
and then you've got the head.
Yeah.
But like that's like red. But the thing is, like red really struggles to like provide threats that are hard to block. This is the whole argument about aggro in this format is that there is very few ways to push damage in that are not like removal spells or big creatures.
Yeah.
Because the tricks are quite bad. And And red only has one trick, which is like
that quick draw. That's right.
Which is terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you can get people. You can get people because no one's expecting it.
Yeah.
But like, what happens is your green opponent plays a 4/4 beaver and you just look at it and you're like, oh, what am I doing?
Yeah. The other thing that's interesting about the Coyote, and I guess Seth didn't take the Roadrunner, but had he taken those 2 haste creatures, is it puts a lot of pressure on the Arynx, because the Arynx like doesn't play well with haste. Haste and the crew, it's not crew, it's Saddle.
Yeah.
Haste and Saddle kind of play at cross ends with each other. They want the same resource, a new creature.
Yeah, that's true. But like, I think you're happy to be swinging in with a 4/2.
Totally.
So this next pick here, I want to see what else is in the pack for Seth that he's kind of looking through.
An interesting one.
So he's taking this Discerning Peddler. And in this pack, it looks like there's a Steer Clear, there's an Insatiable Avarice, there's the Jailbreak Scheme, Razzle Dazzler, and I'm not sure exactly what else. It doesn't look like a very strong pack.
Yeah. He's just doubling down on red, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think like now he's sort of like committing to red. But what is interesting, I don't know what you thought of Peddler at the beginning of the format. I looked at this card and to me it looks like a worse, but like it seems kind of like a Scrapwork Mud.
That's right, yeah. The Axiom Engraver variant.
Yeah, and that card was good in Brothers War. Axiom Engraver was really good in All Will Be One.
Yep.
And so like this card's like, okay, it gives me a little fixing. It provides a body. It's really important to have
got
bodies.
A relevant type.
Relevant types.
Yep.
But like it seems like everyone is pretty down on this card.
Yeah, I haven't really seen it do much. It's just hard to like. They're just much better things to do with your deck.
Yeah.
Than a 2/2 that loots away a land. And oftentimes there's so much to do with your lands, like you don't need to loot them away, or they're deserts and you ping them with them instead.
And this is the other very weird thing about this format is that you're right. It's got a relevant type. It is an outlaw, and yet the creature type that I find myself carrying much more in the drafts is mounts.
That's true.
It's funny. It's supposed to be the outlaw format, and it's kind of the mount saddle format.
Yeah. Because green white is just so dominant.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe it was a situation where they were really worried that the mechanic wouldn't work if someone just points a removal spell, and they pushed it enough that it sure does work.
Yeah.
So he does take the Peddler here, and then this next pick, he's looking at the Porcupine mount. Yeah. Also in this pack, I mean, so there's a lot of weak cards in this pack. There is a Pylon.
There you go.
Which I'm such a believer in Pylons. But I guess it's nice to have a red mount, or a mount that's going to be in his colors if he does go Boros.
Yeah. And the Charger is pretty hard to block. If you can settle it up, it becomes a 5/5.
Yes.
With Menace, I think.
That's true.
That's not an easy creature to deal with.
Now here he gets past a This is the affinity card. I forget what it's called, but the card that's got affinity
Oh yeah,
for
Hellspur Brute or something.
yeah, which he does end up picking up here. Hellspur Brute, yeah. Which now this is a direction. This is a solid direction. Although it's a little bit awkward because this is a card that I think is really supposed to be in Rakdos.
Yeah, he's got the Aranx and the
Yeah,
Roadrunner or the Coyote.
he's got he's got a bunch of critters. He's got I think one outlaw in his whole pack. Here he just picks up a Mesa, which is good fixing and probably a good time to take it since there wasn't that much in the pack. Except there was a Gigapede. Like it's sort of this part of the draft. I'm like honestly kind of like thinking about black a little bit.
Oh, that's true. Like he didn't pick. He's got that. Yeah, it looks like the 2 white cards in there, the Prairie Dog and the Aranx.
Here he picks up a Djinn of Fool's Fall over kind of a pretty empty pack. What is possibly in this pack? I do know there is another blue card. It's a Phantom Interference, which I think that's a card that I prefer over a blue card that I prefer over a Djinn of Fool's Fall.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And then I'm not sure what else is in here. It's kind of hard to see.
I think the redirection spell is there. Is that the redirection spell?
It might be. Maybe this is his wheel pack. Yes, it is the redirection spell. It's Lava Spur Bruce. Yeah, this must be the
this
wheel.
Is wheel. Yeah.
And so there's also the Tyrant Scorn.
Oh, it's still there.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, that's a signal that like no one is Dimir.
Yeah, nobody's doing the crimes thing in Dimir.
Or at least if there was, like, it's very possible they took something, better earlier in the pack or something.
Yeah, a better drafter than I would probably know what sort of crime cards they took, but I don't remember the
picks.
The initial pick.
I mean, I wouldn't. The thing is, right? Like, I think if you're going into the Pro Tour, and I don't know, maybe some people have gone deep on the sort of Sam Black crime deck, the Grixis crime deck, but I think probably a lot of people are just like, yeah, you pick up beaters and you try to be green, and that's true. Because like there's really, if I had to like summarize sort of like the format space, right? There's there's the green mount decks, then there's the green like multicolor deck, and there's the green black recursion deck. Yeah. Then there's like other sort of black grindy decks, like black white, and then there's crime. Yeah. And that's kind of the whole format. There's not that much else cooking. And someone couldn't, I guess that's not like 100% true. There is like Azorius Drago. Yeah. But like these are kind of things where you don't find yourself that often.
That's true. Yeah. Like, I mean, and I guess when everyone's taking all the powerful cards, you just need to have creatures that can close a game. Yeah. Doing something too synergy focused is like the good synergy pieces are going to get picked off. And it's going to be tough.
Well, I don't necessarily know about that because like, this is the tough thing of these high stakes drafts is that like people, the pros know, right? Yeah. They know about the crime deck. It's a question of how comfortable they feel drafting the crime deck, right? But like someone in this pod might be Drago, someone in this pod might be Dimir Crime, someone in this pod might be, probably a lot of people are doing green based on how little green.
Yeah, there's no green, I think.
And I think that's really important because when we get to pack 2, sort of Seth's decisions, I think, are really going to depend on like the lack of green that he sees right now. Because I think it's pretty clear with this wheel pack that green is not open. Yep. Yep. So yeah,
well, the first first 8 picks, I don't think he saw a single worthwhile green card.
Yeah, there was like a patient nationalist, and that was like really it. So here, as we sort of wrap up, he picks up a few blue cards. Here there's there's an Ionize. Oh yeah, he does pick up this Ionize here, which is
that's
nice
kind of a cool card.
Yeah, I mean that is tempting to be like red blue. Yeah. Now I don't want to like harp on sliding door stuff here, but like here he's got another choice between. I guess there's a green card. There's the
search for 2 lands. Yeah.
But like he could, if he was like more into red, like didn't sort of dally with those white picks, then it might have been freer to pick up it might have been freer to pick up just blue cards and be like, okay, I'm red and I'm kind of playing with blue because it looks open, but I don't have to be committed to it.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting here is there's just zero interest in that Insatiable Avarice, which I guess that's a card you can't splash and probably not that good of a card in general.
Yeah, I guess if you're tutoring some bomb up with it, but it still tutors to the top of the deck, which is really tough.
I think it's like 5 mana to tutor and draw.
Yeah, black,
and lose 3 life, which is pretty painful.
Yeah. Well, you tutor the top and then you draw 3, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And then you lose 3. Yeah.
Oof.
So, I mean, here he's got a start of like kind of a red aggressive deck, but like, you know, he's sort of pulled to blue, he's pulled to white, he's in these Jeskai colors. These are not colors that you really want to be sort of splashing around.
Yeah, I really wish he took that Roadrunner. I feel like the Roadrunner and just makes it so that he's heavily red and not white at all.
I mean, he could have. I mean,
he could have done two of those red picks. Yeah.
Yeah, he could have gone
derailment into the Roadrunner
instead of the errants. So I mean, like now he's in the setup where, like, yeah, he does have those 2-drops, but those 2-drops marry him to white, and you know he did see some black going around the table. He certainly saw some blue. So it just might be the case that white isn't, you know, we'll see how the next pack plays out for Seth, but it might be that white is not the most open thing at the table.
So can I ask you a question here and pause it? Would you be thinking about pivoting out of white with the pile that you have?
With the pile that Seth has?
Yeah.
So like, this is the thing is that we haven't taken a white card since the Prairie Dog, right?
Oh, yeah. That's right. That was like pack 1, pick 4, pick 3,
something like that. Yeah. I think it actually was. I think the draft went Dragon, then Erranks, then Prairie Dog, and then we haven't picked a white card since. And I certainly would not expect the Mystical Tether to wheel, but it certainly doesn't wheel, right?
That's right.
And you know, we haven't even seen have we seen a Sterling Supplier? Which is the 5-drop,
That's right, yeah.
The 5-drop bird, which is I often find when white, when white's open, those are wheeling, and you're happy to pick up one. So it's a flyer that can help close out the game, and we certainly don't see it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm nervous about white.
Yeah.
And you know, there were some picks here where there were some very close, kind of a close to empty pack, and there was a Gigapede. And I know a Gigapede is not something you really want to be getting into black for, but it does seem like a card that there's a reason that we would want to be in black red, which is we have this Brute, which is
That's right. The Brute is a great card,
and it's kind of a card that is a Rakdos, a Rakdos secret gold card.
Yeah,
because it really wants to be in the outlaw deck, and there's actually. There are a lot of outlaws in this set, but there's less than you kind of think, you know?
Yeah, finding the outlaws decks has been hard for me too.
Yeah.
So you'd be kind of strong red for sure, but maybe thinking about a second color.
Well, also this is kind of all fake and phony,
right,
because I know where this draft goes, right? Okay. I have spoilers. I've seen it before. Okay. So I know that well, I don't remember exactly if white is cut or not, but I do know that we would very much be happier had we been all red in this pack.
Okay, we'll see.
So yeah, let's move on. If you were, how are you feeling, right? I would be nervous.
I would be a little nervous. I mean, my favorite thing to do is to heavy one color pack 1 and then back into another color, even green pack 2. If I get past a green card or 2 pack 2, then I say green is my second color for pack 2, and then just go all heavy red on pack 3 plus my open. And we'll see.
I mean, here you go, right?
He opens Bristly
awesome. Bill.
I would totally do that here, I think.
And you also have an Explosive Derailment, which he passed up the last pack, but maybe he's considering here. There's a Patient Naturalist, another green card in this pack. I think there's a second rare, which is a ret, which I don't think I'd ever end up casting in this format.
Yeah, no auras here.
And it's this weird Commander Aura Synergy card. I don't know what the off the presses card is. The breaking news. Oh, it's Siphon Insight, I think. Okay. So that it's another Dimir card. he ends up taking, very interestingly, I want to go through this pack because I had this pick because I think it is like really pretty important for the tenor of Seth's draft.
You can put it in slow motion.
Oh yeah, well, maybe we should actually do that because I want to look at these other cards.
Options down there.
Yep. Yeah, settings. Oh yeah, playback speed. Let's get it to like 0.5 or something. So I think there's a one last job in this pack. It's like there's 3 rares in this pack. It really is the play booster era.
Yeah, Bill.
So take for a ride as an uncommon. There's some commons that don't really matter, but there is a one last job.
Yeah.
Which is a good white card. And I think
what's that one do again?
So that is now that's actually the card that your friend used to outvalue me in our paper draft. So it's the white reanimate, where it's a spree card for three mana as the base. Just a tangent here. I strongly dislike. I was about to use the H word, but I strongly dislike the templating for spree cards.
Yes,
I find it very difficult to keep track with my head what they actually do and how much it's going to cost me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's 3. It's 1. What's a bunch of numbers? It's 2 and a white, so 3 mana total for just to sign up. Okay. And then the modes are, I think it's 1 to buy back a mount from your graveyard, 2 to buy back any other creature, and then I forget the last mode. I think it's an aura or something. Aura.
Oh yeah, an aura. Yeah.
I think that's also 1. Mm-hmm. So really, what it is often is it's 5 mana reanimate a creature, or 6 mana reanimate a creature and a mount.
Yeah. Okay.
And where he's at, where he does have a good number of mounts, and a lot of his creatures are like his 2-drops are whites. Like when I was watching this, I was like, I might with his pile, I might take one last job here.
That's an interesting pick. Yeah, I've not played with it, and so I've not seen it in action, except for that one time when my friend just valued again and again with it.
I mean that card is really good, and I find it is a way for white decks to compete with green in terms of value. It's probably like, I guess maybe you would think of more of an Orzhov card, because that's kind of the game that Orzhov's doing.
Or a mounts card. I mean, you have to have mounts for it too.
Yeah, I guess you do, right? And there's very few, unless you get Caustic Bronco.
Which, that's right.
Then you're very happy.
Yeah, so I guess it's kind of a white-green card because of
the mount.
Mounts,
and you really want a mount.
Yeah.
Like that makes it more than like, that makes it like essentially but they bring it back to the battlefield, so
that's pretty good.
It's better than what's that card, Badlands Revival, where you get 1 reanimate and 1 card in hand. It's crazy to me because like if you were to show me maybe 2 years ago or something a 5 mana reanimate that brings something to the battlefield and draws you another card, I feel like, come on, that can't be real and uncommon. But that's where we are. So Seth picks the derailment because he is committed to red.
Wow.
And I think Marshall on commentary is saying I would 100% take the Bristly Bill here. I think the reason that Seth is not taking Bristly Bill is exactly what we pegged before, is that green was not open.
That's true.
In the previous pack. I think it's really close.
Bill feels better than all his white cards. I mean, he's got 2 good white cards, but Bill wins games by itself.
Yes.
Cast it on 3 with a land. That's the landfall gets a +1/+1 counter, right?
Yeah. And then you have this activated ability. I think it's 5 mana to double the +1/+1 counters on all your creatures. So it's like if you set that up, Bill gives a counter to a guy, gives another counter to a guy, and then you're just like threatening to in combat put
another 2 or 3
counters on multiple creatures.
Yeah.
Bill's a huge threat. So, but I guess Seth has basically said here with this pick, I am not green.
Yeah.
I am not going to fight for green. I'm just going to stick with red. And then you get this pack.
Okay.
Where there's a Gila Courser, which is a good mount. There's a Congregation Griff, one of the best uncommons in the set for the Selesnya mounts deck. And there's a few other stuff. I'm not sure if there's anything else to comment on.
Armadillo.
The Omen Poet Vigilante, which we're not really considering.
That's a double strike if you crime.
Yeah, yes, he is bringing it to the top of the pack. I'm not sure what else would be consideration, especially since we don't see that much of it. But I think for him in his spot, he's pretty locked into taking this this Gila, which I think is a good card.
Yeah.
There's a back for more in this pack. Gotcha. Okay, but he's so off green.
Yeah.
That it's not even in the conversation.
Yeah. Back for more is such a great card, but he's too far away from it.
Yeah, I mean it's just in two different colors. If he took that, it would really. I mean, here's a question: if you take Bristly Bill, are you like considering taking that card?
I mean, he has the land for fixing. He's got that one, the Evolving Wilds multicolor land thing, not Mesa something.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Shimmer Drift Veil or something from Kaldheim. They do it where you choose a color.
I don't think I take Back for More because the Courser is a good card if you're in red.
Mm-hmm. And also, if you're in green, I'd sooner take the Griff.
The Congregation Griff.
Congregation Griff. But that's where we're proposing a completely different path through the draft, right? Where we have to at this point we need to sit with Seth where he is strongly biasing towards red, and red is his base color, and he's not going to pivot from that. So here we see the Newts.
Yeah.
Which I haven't liked all that much, but can do something if you are base blue. I never feel like I need to take it highly. What's the breaking news card?
I don't know. I missed it.
There's Requisition Raid, which actually that's a good card. I don't know if you would consider it here. Let's see I
think it passed it already.
Okay, man, it's so hard to. Yeah, we certainly did. These Detention Sphere.
That's a good card.
That's a good card. I mean, the problem is
it's too far away from all of that.
Yeah, it's so far. There's also the Wrangler of the Damned. I think the flash card. He's considering this is the pick where he takes the freaking Loan Shark, isn't he?
That is interesting. Well, I guess he doesn't have any red cards there. There's the Trick Shot at the back. That's the deal 6 and 2 to a token.
Yeah, but that's gonna wheel.
Yeah, it's not a very good card. I mean, you just don't want too many of them.
Yeah, well, it's just so expensive.
Yeah,
and he did get some blue the last pack.
That's true. So he's possibly thinking about red blue.
I mean, very clearly, white blue is open, but he just has so few white that he doesn't necessarily want to move into that lane. And I feel like white blue is a kind of deck you don't want to end up Jeskai splashing. It's just going to be too clunky to play at the PT.
Yeah.
Okay. So this next pack, you got a more tough card. There's a Lively Dirge, there's Thunder Salvo. There's the Stagecoach Security. So there's some good white or red cards.
You don't like the Key to the Vault or whatever?
I mean, the Key to the Vault, I have had someone actually hit me with that once.
Yeah.
And that is pretty good. I still won that game. It's so expensive. It's 5 mana to get on a creature. The creature needs to have an attack.
It doesn't buff the creature itself.
It doesn't buff the creature at all. There is a Raven in this pack. And there's a Shoot the Sheriff too.
Okay.
There's a black card.
Wow.
And he does take the Thunder Salvo here. I was mentioning that black I think that's a Shoot the Sheriff. I was mentioning that black looked a little bit open. Or is that Skullduggery?
That card was Skullduggery.
Okay, there's not Shoot the Sheriff. Never mind. I did mention that I was kind of looking at black, the previous pack. I don't know if there was really any feasible entry point into it. Certainly, you were not happy to pick up Skullduggery there.
Yeah, Skullduggery has been a hard spell to cast because it needs your own creature to target. So you can't pick off an X1 on turn 2.
Oh, interesting.
Because you can't target your own creature.
Sure, that's interesting. And then, if you have fewer cheap creatures, it definitely does get worse. So here, Okay. Again, if we talk about black,
Oh
right?
my gosh, yeah.
There's a what is it? Hollow Marauder?
Yeah, Hollow Marauder.
Which, I mean, this card is excellent. And I think, is that a Buried in the Garden? Or these breaking news cards are so difficult. So I know Seth.
That's Buried.
Okay, and Seth definitely takes this this 2-drop here, the Peddler. But like, just to be passing 2 really powerful cards feels really.
I would have taken the Marauder here. It's just so strong, and I feel like it's a late signal for black.
Yeah,
and, like we're not locked into white or blue.
Yeah.
And so that's
we really only have our own.
And you were saying that the outlaw affinity guys best in black red,
and the Marauder is an outlaw.
Yeah,
it's just like very, very weird typing. Like give it a hat to make it clear. Like
so funny.
It is a Marauder. So here finally, like
he gets white cards.
Yes, like a man dying of thirst. Finally, the white flows. There's a Mystical Tether, the card that I consistently misnamed in pack 1, and there's a Holy Cow.
Yeah,
and there's a red card. What's this red card? Oh, it's another Charger, go back Charger, and there's a Betrayal at the Vault, a green card. I think he's so far away from green. And
that was Imp's Mischief.
Yeah, no, I've never put Imp's Mischief.
Yeah, that's the redirection spell in black that costs you life points for the mana cost. I've not seen that really played.
No, I think Seth is happy to take Tether here, and it seems basically from this point on, if I'm Seth with like the direction he's taken, it's just like I'm just kind of locked into Boros. It's just really tough that we've done it. We've taken this path. Here he has finds a this is Form a Posse, right?
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, it's the red white gold card.
Yeah, and
he
then
plays with his outlaw dude. I keep not remembering the name.
But the Hellspore Brute.
That's right, the Hellspore Brute.
But if you look at this, like green actually has kind of flowed. Like if you took Bristly Bill, like there might have been a path.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah, the Varmint. Here's a 2-drop.
There's also Patient Naturalist.
Yeah, we saw the Naturalists.
And there's also, if you are doing the Rakdos Life, and I have not drafted Rakdos, but there is a Vial Smasher in this pack. Vial Smasher is a pretty good card. I don't think it's like excellent, but
if you can repeatedly get the pings off of it, it starts to add up for sure.
And this is kind of like I mentioned the sort of Grixis Crime burn plan, but like if you just have a bunch of outlaws, Vial Smasher triggers crimes and it does burn your opponent out. But we're off that. We're solidly not black, and now we just kind of need to take. We are red, and we kind of need to shore up another color. And it looks like Seth's going to try to make that white.
Yeah, the Vengeful Townfolk and the Trick Shot at the top, it looks like.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is his wheel pack.
I don't think so. He's got 7 cards in his pile.
No, I think it is his wheel pack. I think this is or maybe, I think so, right? That was in what he opened? No. Sorry, the Trick Shot. Trick Shot was like 1 past his initial pick or something. Anyways, all right. Here we have the Desert Duel. We've got the Orzhov Duel, and this is his pack because this is the One Last Job, which wheeled, and there's also Take for a Ride. So, this is when I saw this, I was like, that's crazy that One Last Job wheeled, because I find this card to be very good.
Yeah, nobody's in the green-white mounts, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, that would make sense because Buried in the Garden got pretty far.
That's true. It's pretty far, yeah.
And so, I guess no one is specifically green-white.
You like that pick here? Like, he's got, 2 mounts in his pile, I think.
I think he's got,
He's got the Arynx, he's got the Gala Courser, and
he's got
the Charger.
The Charger, yeah.
Okay, so 3 mounts.
Yeah.
Would you play that card if you had 3 mounts, or would you feel like you'd need more?
I mean, I think you still play it because it's a 5-mana reanimates, which that's not even that good. You need to have more mounts, I guess. I mean, maybe that's why the pros are not valuing it that highly. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm valuing it because it was very good against me in one specific game.
Yeah.
I had it at a sealed pool, where I thought I was very good, but I was also Selesnya. So I had a few targets for it. And also in sealed, you're gonna like play longer games.
Yeah.
A card like that is gonna do better.
Yeah, that card I think would be phenomenal in sealed.
Yeah,
because you're eventually going to find a mount in the yard.
Yeah, and I was green white, where you have things like patient naturalist to mill you, and you certainly do not have that in Boros.
Yeah.
So, I was considering first picking that card from that deck, so I'm happy to have it wheeled, but I might be misvaluing it. So, now we're kind of in the dregs. This is sort of the deal of pro drafts, is that good cards do not make it around the table. But hey, at least
a red and a white card at the end.
Now, Seth here, did he take the Forma Posse?
I thought so. Though I guess we can look back on the list. I like that picking up a flyer there. I feel like that's a great pickup for the end of the pack.
Sure, but like, kind of how red white wins in this format is that it goes wide, and then it prickly pears and like other token maker guys, and then can actually deploy an Outlaw's Fury.
Yeah, he's got a Forma Posse there.
Nice. So like I was sort of thinking, like, I mean, he could probably find an Outlaw Fury in pack 3 that no one else is going to take that card.
Yeah.
So I think taking a flyer makes a lot of sense. But like, that is like, if I'm him, like, I'm kind of looking at this pile and I'm like, okay, if I do not find my dragon, how am I going to win this game?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, finding dragon and then being able to like buy the dragon back with one last job, that's nice. But I think like Seth has like paid here for sort of trying out other, not committing as early to red as a main color. Did you play Crimson Vow?
I did not. That was when I was taking a break.
Okay.
So
I think this format is a lot like Crimson Vow.
Okay.
And I remember people's reaction to Crimson Vow being that, they're just like incredible bombs, right?
Yeah.
And that format had like a lot of bombs for that time. This was before the play booster era, right? But there were just a lot. There was like Dreadfeast Demon, and there was a giant vampires, and the moody red werewolf. Well, there's a lot of bombs. Just a way to put it. And that was very much a format where you needed removal and you needed to like think about when your opponent's going to play a bomb. And I find this format to be kind of similar to that as well. I guess there were better tricks in that format.
Okay.
But like, just sort of like, I need to expect bombs. I'm going to expect my opponents are going to have bombs. And that's sort of how, when I'm approaching the draft, I'm like preparing to deal with bombs and see bombs.
Yeah.
And
how do you feel about your removal suite here then? He's got Thunder Salvo, one Mystical Tether.
And then kind of that's where we're at.
Yeah, I don't know if...
Oh, he's got a Derailment.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
So that's sort of the thing, is like Tether, I really want to have like a density of removal that can answer, anything, right? Okay. Unconditional. And like the efficiency of Thunder Salvo. And Thunder Salvo is not very efficient.
Yeah, it's tough.
Derailment is efficient, sometimes, in that like for 3 mana you can kill a giant beaver, right?
Yeah.
That's nice. Tether is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
I remember looking at Tether and being like, it doesn't gain you 2 life. It's terrible.
That's right.
But it turns out it's pretty good.
Yeah. So would you be hoping for a couple more removal spells in this next pack?
Yeah. I mean, the problem is that Seth needs a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Right. He at least has 2s, which is nice. But now he needs more power. He needs a way to push damage. He needs removal. And that's a tough place to be.
Okay.
And especially, it doesn't feel good to be like, taking, like a peddler when we could have taken a Hollow Marauder or something like that.
Yeah.
But,
we'll see.
Them's the breaks. I mean, that's the thing, is like Hollow Marauder with One Last Job is also very nice.
That's true.
Because like, you know, copying the ETB is so good. But like that's how that's sort of the interesting thing. I was talking to my friend Greg Michael from the System Magic podcast about you know, Greg was in the Pro Tour, right?
Okay.
And you know,
he did pretty well, right?
He did very well. He got 17th
Wow.
overall and a 6-0 record in limited.
That's
Greg is a beast.
Why am I sitting here?
Well, you know, we couldn't get Greg.
Makes
basically. There's a lot of demands on Greg's time.
Yeah.
But he drafted. Also, I didn't necessarily want Greg to have to commentate on another pro in the Pro Tour and just be like, I would have done it better. You know, Seth doesn't know what he's doing. Obviously, Seth is I think it's like
he's a world champ.
He's a world champ. Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
Here is this pack 3 for?
Yeah, this is pack 3, pick 1.
Okay.
Derailment.
We get another round. We were talking about getting more removal. This is a morbid opportunist from the sheet here. The
special guest.
It was a very nice card. It was sort of like the one of the mythic uncommons from Midnight Hunt. And I think there's some good black cards.
There's some really good black cards.
Oh yes, this is the other thing I wanted to talk. This is actually why I specifically wanted you to talk about this draft. Is because here one of the uncommons that Seth opens is what's this card called? The Ruthless Righteous Lawbringer, Ruthless
one of those,
something like that. The Orzhov card where you sacrifice something and it kills something. It's a 3/2 for 3 mana.
Yeah.
Black and white.
Yeah.
I know you've been a big fan of this card.
I'm a huge fan of that card. Somebody's been talking it up in the Discord, and I've been trying it left and right. Like, there's so many ways to get those little tokens sitting around in black, and you can just recur it multiple times, and it hits anything. You know, you sacrifice something, and you can hit an enchantment.
It's a non-land permanent.
Yeah. You can hit Planeswalker. I used it to remove Oko once.
Forgot to feel nice.
Oh, man. I thought I was totally dead because I couldn't get it off the board, but then I drew that. I was like, oh, this kills Oko. It's great. It's a big pull into black white, but Seth is a little bit of ways away from that.
Well, this is the thing that I was mentioning is that like we could have been. There's a path to this draft where we could have been Mardu.
Yeah.
Of course, like all of this, just to sort of lampshade it. Of course, like it's so easy to just like sit here and be like, oh, Seth could have been Mardu, Seth could have been Selesnya, Seth could have been this or that. But like there is a path to this draft where had things worked out a little bit differently, we could be open to taking this card.
That's totally true.
We did see. Seth did see a Orzhov duel, which he could have picked up. I forget what he took over it. And this card is splashable. It is kind of good on the splash, to be honest, because like it has a lot of impact even when you have 7 lands in play. And it's a card that can be recurred with One Last Job.
That's
and it's
true.
really nice when you recur it.
Yeah.
I remember when this kind of discussion of this card was happening, I was thinking to myself, well, you need fodder. You really want to have like Nizumi, like Line Breaker, like 1/1.
The Link Breaker,
yeah, exactly. Like these kind of like fodder cards, so you don't feel like you're giving up a card's worth of value when you like sacrifice something. But how it plays out is like oftentimes you're more than happy to give up your 3-drop or your 2-drop to get rid of your opponent's best card. Because the quality of their best card is so outscales your 2-drop or 3-drop.
Yep.
So, but where Seth's at, where he really wants to have and I think this is something that I want to hammer home because, like, I mean, this is something that I think is going through Seth's head, is that Seth wants to have a focused 2-color deck that's going to be able to cast his spells, because you're going to play against the best players in the world. If you stumble, then they're going to just kill you.
Yeah.
So
especially for a deck that doesn't have a lot of top end power.
Yeah.
Like he can't play the long game where he's waiting for a splash, because
exactly.
He waits for a splash and then he removes their best thing, but then they've got 3 more because they've drafted more power at the top.
Yeah. And they are playing, this is a pod draft. It's important to kind of know that all the cards he's passing are going to potentially, he's going to have to face in this pod. So here he's got a pack with some good whites. I mean, it is
2 drops.
There's another peddler in case he wants to get like I think this would be his third peddler.
Yeah.
There's the Keykeeper and there's the Fairy. Notably, all of these are outlaws.
Oh, that's kind of interesting. Yeah.
I think the Keykeeper is an outlaw, and I know for sure the Fairy is an outlaw. There's also a Mourner's Surprise. Again, sort of like peppering the
if only.
if only.
Yeah.
But I think I don't know exactly which 2-drop or 1-drop Seth is going to pick here. I think he might pick if I remember, he picks the Fairy.
Really? Okay. Fairy can recur his ETBs. Does he have a lot of ETBs? He's taking another peddler.
I guess he takes the peddler. What ETB could he possibly have? Like the dragon, you don't want to recur.
The tether. If you pick off a token with it, you can pick up the tether again.
That is a nice little play.
Or even you just pick, like, you're under pressure, you pick off their like flyer or something, and then later on you don't need to deal with the flyer anymore because you have bigger creatures, and then you can.
Gotcha tether. with the tether. Sure. Yeah, that is kind of a nice play. I find that there is also, it does get a counter when you bounce something.
Yeah,
making
a 2/2.
Making a 2/2 flyer is pretty good
for 1 mana.
So
Prickly Pear. Hey, and the Tycoon. Those two, the 2 go wide pieces for red.
And a Ride Down, which I think,
a combat trick.
Which is like one of the few good combat tricks in the pack. And another special guest card. I think that's a Dust Bowl or Desert or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might just actually be Desert. Here, I wonder, in a vacuum, which card are you taking?
In a vacuum, I think I take Tycoon, but he's got that Outlaw affinity guy.
Yeah.
And the Prickly Pear makes 2 of them, and the Tycoon only makes 1.
Yeah, it's a noble.
Is a noble itself, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it is like he needs power.
Yeah, that's true. The Tycoon is pretty powerful.
The Tycoon
got a couple tokens sitting around.
Exactly. It is the kind of card that, like, if you talk about like how do you win as an aggressive deck, is that you are hard to block.
Mm-hmm.
Tycoon's hard to block, and you can't just take 2 damage over and over again,
or 4 damage.
Yeah, exactly, 4 damage. So, or 5 damage if they
they pump it. Yeah,
they pump it. So. I can see taking Tycoon here, although it is really close with the Brute. I think he only has 1 Brute. If I can't exactly.
Yeah, he's only got 1 Brute.
And then here, there's another Orzhov Duel. There's a Coyote. I think he's just going to take the Coyote here.
Yeah, 2-drop.
Yeah,
take the aggro 2-drop.
There's a Korvik, which is the card that's kind of like doing
if you crime them, you can cast a black spell.
Yes, when you pay 2 life.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Toshiro Umezawa from OG Kamigawa.
That's before my time.
Yeah, I think I had a like early commander deck where I was playing with like making a commander deck with that card. I think it's from like the early days of Commander. People were playing it because you could recur removal spells and stuff like that from the graveyard. But I guess it makes sense to pick up a Coyote here. This is so. Let's sort of like give some spoilers of Seth's performance, right? Do you know his record in this draft?
I don't. Okay. I know. Yeah.
Do you want to guess how it turns out for him?
I mean, he's Seth Manfield. I wouldn't be surprised if he went 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like any Pro Tour player can win with any deck.
With a pile of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Yeah. I mean, I think like that's very true, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think I saw Martin Juza on the other side of the table.
Yeah. So there's some good players.
There's some good players here. So
it's the Pro Tour. There's going to be good players. So this is okay. I wasn't dreaming it. I think he does pick up another Hellspore Brute here.
Oh, okay.
And then is there a?
Oh yeah, there's a Brute.
There's another Ruthless Lawbringer or Relentless Lawbringer.
If only, right? If only.
This is what I'm saying. The sliding door possibilities. There is, I think, an out to be a really good, like,
the sliding door of possibilities. What's a sliding door of possibilities?
Have you heard of it? There's a movie called sliding doors.
Oh, I have not.
And it's like it's not a very good movie,
Okay.
but it's a movie about I think literally like a sliding door on a train, and in one universe it's like a kind of an early multiverse movie.
Okay.
Where in one universe like the sliding door closes and the couple doesn't get back together. I wanted like it, there's just enough time, and sort of like the two possibilities. And it's not a very popular movie, but it did like create this
This idea.
term,
Okay.
So if you're not familiar
Now
with
we
that,
know.
it doesn't make any sense. But there's another world in which the door didn't close on drafting black.
Yep.
And like I think there's a possibility where the red cards he saw, he got some white cards in pack one. If he
Is that Rakdos joins up?
Is that really? I thought there's a Cactus Folk Sure Shock. There is a Rakdos drives.
Wow, yeah. So the red black, maybe.
There's a world where you could be red black. There's a world where you could be maybe Orzhov splashing red.
Yeah. Rakdos joins up is amazing with that Pixie. That Pixie,
yeah.
You cast Rakdos joins up, pick something up, and then Pixie pick up the Rakdos joins up.
Reanimate another thing.
Reanimate something else. Or, after the Pixie dies, you reanimate a Pixie again, and then you just repeat forever.
Oh my gosh.
It's a 4/4 flyer. It's gross.
Oh yeah. Because you reanimate it and then
2+1/+1 counters.
And then you pick up the
Rakdos
joins up. That was a 4/4. That's disgusting.
Yeah.
Now here Seth can pick a.
I'm surprised he hasn't picked up. Oh no, he just picked up the Keykeeper. Okay.
Yeah.
I was feeling like Keykeeper is like maybe one of his interaction pieces so that he can punch through.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm happy to run a Keykeeper. It's actually not the stats on it are not like terrible, but if that's how you're planning on interacting in this format, it's pretty rough. Here he does take a
quick draw
as like sort of keep in mind he does not have take up the shield.
Yeah.
His the way that he can protect his threats are very limited, and he can't really.
Yep.
So he this can help punch through on combat, but only if your creatures are big enough.
Yeah.
Now here, there's a Wolverine, and there's also an Outlaw Medic. Outlaw Medic is not a very aggressive card.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the Wolverine? This is a card that I wanted to get your opinion on.
It looked like the best red comment when it was spoiled. It was
like,
it gives you a card, and it's a reasonable body. It can attack and block, but it's been very hard for me. I just have not been able to use it effectively.
I don't have a lot of experience with red decks.
Yeah.
I really have. I think I've drafted one Gruul deck, and I 0-3'd with it, and I haven't touched the color since.
Yeah.
And
Gruul, you just want bigger creatures.
Yeah.
And you can't take. And you the other thing is you plot and you try to cast it, and then you hit your 5-drop or your 6-drop with the Wolverine, and it's tough.
That's the thing is that look at this pack where I mean you have a bad rare, but you do have this what is it?
File Breaker,
File Smasher, and then the Ruthless or
Lawbringer is still there.
Lawbringer is still in this pack, and it's like, it's so
this
tough.
Is this wheel pack, I think.
Yeah, and it's so tough. Like here, he takes the Lawbringer, but it's not going to make his deck. It's like the mana is too tough to make that happen.
Yeah.
But with the Wolverine, just to circle back to that, that's kind of card where I've heard here he gets the Pixie, which is at least a nice pickup.
Yeah.
But I've heard takes about that card where some people say, it's Seryl's Packmate. And other people say it's 3 mana, exile the top card of your library. Right, You can't play it.
Yes. I've had that happen a lot more than I'd like.
And in Seth's deck, actually his cards are cheap, so it's going to be a little bit better. But where a lot of curves are in this format are on the bigger side. It can be kind of hard to make it so that you reliably get a card.
You get to write down back.
Write down is nice. I mean, he successfully realized that no one else is doing Boros. He can safely wield this card.
Yep. Yeah, that was good.
So
the Link Breaker was in that pack as well for your Lawbringer's fodder.
Of course, because we all know you need to pick up fodder for your Lawbringer. If you're inviting the Lawbringer over for dinner, you better have some Link Breakers as hors d'oeuvre.
Yeah.
Here he gets a trick shot, which is nice as probably a sideboard card against a green deck. It will be able to kill a Bonnie Paul or something.
That's true. I mean, if the Bonnie Paul comes down,
You're dead. Yeah. And this is here. He gets the. This is a card that like I found it really hard to evaluate. The
that's the mine something.
It's mine. I actually don't know what it's called.
Mine Raider.
Mine Raider. There you go. It's the 3/2 trample. Trample is actually relevant. 3/2 trample that if you have another outlaw will make you a treasure.
Yeah.
Which is nice, and he does have a certain amount of outlaws.
Yeah.
So that could be a decent card. I don't think he's got any means to splash. He's not gonna. He might want to splash the reckless, ruthless Lawbringer, but that I think is going to be too tough on his mana with only one Mesa in his pile.
How do you feel about his deck here? So he's piecing through the deck.
Yeah, I mean he's got a curve that for sure he has. And look, I remember when I was drafting when in the PTQ for, and I'm not saying I'm not Seth Manfield. I'm a much worse player than Seth Manfield. I'm a much worse drafter than Seth Manfield. So, but like, I had the same thought when I was doing my PTQ draft and when I was in a pod with Sam Black and all these folks. Where I was like, I just want to make sure I've got a functional curve and I want to be able to cast my spells and I want to be in 2 colors. I don't want to mess around with aggressive splashes because I don't want to train wreck. Right? Yeah. I want to just have a functional deck because that's going to be how I'm going to like have a chance of winning games. And certainly he does have that, but like he does not have the power to overcome like I think what the green decks or the more engine-based decks can do.
Yeah, I feel like he'll have trouble with against Cactarantula, like the 6/5 reach. You just can't punch through something like that.
Well, you need either tether or trick shot. Those are the only things in his deck that can do that, and they still will give the green deck a card.
Quick draw. That's where quick draw comes in play, I guess.
Okay, on your 4-power creature.
That's right. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. I mean, yeah. Okay. Imagine you have the tycoon and you puff it up to maybe you don't even you already traded off your mercenary token and then they look like it's naked and you go aha quick draw now my guy is a 5-power first striker. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay,
I'm sure PT opponents will totally fall for that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know. I if I'm in the PT, I'm sure they are thinking about. They know about all these tricks. They're thinking about quick draw. But like, on Arena, I've never seen quick draw cast against me. All right. So now we've seen Seth Manfield's draft. How do you want to guess how it did?
I know the deck is fine. Seth Manfield behind it.
Sure.
I think he could go 2-1 with that. Like it's not I'm not I think if I had drafted that, I wouldn't be thrilled, but at a PT draft, I think you're not going to find a deck that you're going to be thrilled with anywhere.
True.
Yeah. Perfect hindsight, maybe black might have been a really good color to end up in.
But like exactly, you cannot like peg these things. And also my sort of proposed path to the draft, I wouldn't have dallied in as white as much in pack 1, and that would have closed off some opportunities that prevent themselves, especially in pack 3.
Yeah.
But if we would like the spoiler on Seth's record, he does go 1-2.
Okay.
So he picks up a dub. It's not like a complete train wreck.
Yeah.
But it is pretty scrappy for him. And then the games that I watch, basically what happens is that he does a few points of draft, points of damage. Here we can now look at his final build here. Does he run the quick draw? No, he doesn't start the quick draw at all. He can pushes a few points of damage. He is running 16 lands.
Okay.
I think, right? Yeah, that's my math is right.
As every best of one drafter wants to do.
Yeah.
Run fewer lands.
I mean, I think for his deck with the number of 2-drops, especially the number of discerning peddlers to like help find biz to lands if he needs it. And the Pixie can pick up a peddler in a pinch. You could pick up a Mine Raider and maybe try to generate another treasure off it. I don't know how good that is. You kind of actually would have liked to have a prickly pear or something
Yeah.
in order to get another token. I guess you could pick up the Wolverine and try to draw another card off of it. Yeah, you got a little game there.
Yeah.
He is running one last job with. He's got a decent amount of mounts. He's got like 1, 2, 3, 4 mounts. I mean, okay, that's probably enough that like some of the times that is going to get you 2 cards.
Do you like 16 lands here? Because I definitely would be playing 17 with that kind of deck.
I think I'm the kind of person, like in my experience, I've been punished enough from running 16 lands that I'm like a 17 lands truther unless I am like have a really strong reason to do otherwise. Like, other ways to find lands, and like I understand that the peddlers are kind of like ways to find lands, but it's just very painful when you're like forced to ditch like maybe your one powerful card that like you're hoping is gonna get you to the late game or get you those last points of damage, but you have to throw it in the yard because you need a land to cast your spells. That's painful. Again, I'm not Seth Manfield, and I think he's got kind of this right idea, which is like, hey, the only way I'm going to win games here is if I'm faster and I have more gas, and my opponents hit lands and I don't, and that's how I can push damage. It doesn't really work out for him. But that's certainly the plan. Also, like, if we're talking about votes for lands or less lands, like peddlers kind of vote for less lands, but also kind of vote for more lands because you can pitch those lands and find more stuff. One Last Job really wants you to get to 6 mana. So
that was kind of my thinking. Like the peddlers, I like looting away lands late. The Arynx scries away lands.
There you go.
Don't need it. The Mind Raider makes a treasure, and you want lots of lands for One Last Job. And so that's interesting. I mean, he does have a nice heavy red bias, so he can afford on sources. Like he can 7 whites seems totally fine for his deck.
For sure. And the reason why I brought up Greg's draft earlier, right, is we could pull up Greg's draft on the PT. We don't have it on coverage, but we can pull up his draft deck. But like, it's very different in that it's much more of a mid-range deck. And Greg is a very strong player. Of course, Seth is a very strong player. But like, Greg has drafted this format a ton. And I think, basically what he told me is that he does not see Boros in this format as an aggro deck. Of course, we've seen Boros as an aggro deck in many, many formats for like, I don't know, like probably like 6 formats in a row.
That's right.
But in this format, like, white is not a very aggressive color, except for Arynx and some of its mounts. And you can see white is really playing a support role in this deck. But also, like, what red is good at is really also not really beating down that much. Like, Seth's beatdown plan is off of the base of bears, 2/2s. And so, Cunning Coyote and the Roadrunner are good, but like as soon as they meet a bigger body, it's much harder. And so Greg has drafted as basically like a mid-range deck that's running, red and white cards, and he's much more biased towards white, which is of course nicer because white is a better color. Probably Greg had a smoother draft. We don't have his record. We have his record. We don't have his perspective on coverage. But I think it's just really tough for Seth to like play green opponent after green opponent, and just be like stonewalled by a 4/4.
I can see that happening.
So, I mean, obviously, I think Seth does a lot better in constructed. And I think he does have I don't know exactly where he places in the PT. He sees Seth Manfield. He still does very, very well. But this is, I think, to just sort of summarize my thoughts, it's just like watching this, I was just like, oh no, really? And certainly it's not a train wreck. But if I ended up with this draft, I'd be like, it could have got to get better.
feel like it's scrappy. Like I think it's
certainly
within
scrappy.
range,
I
yeah.
would describe it as scrappy.
Like I like you can clutch out wins with if you draw the dragon early enough, you
Sure.
draw the brute, and
But the problem is that you draw the dragon, sure, but like, okay, this deck does not provide, like, except for the brute, right? The deck does not provide many appealing targets for removal.
That's true.
So when the dragon lands, the player, your like black opponent is like, finally
I can kill something.
a good target for my consuming ashes.
Yeah.
And then the dragon is exiled forever.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And I'm not saying like you can't draft this dragon or whatever, but like the threats in this deck are not particularly scary.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, like cunning coyote plus scary threat is very good, but like I mean, the problem is that like a lot of his 2-drops, his best 2-drops, the prairie dog, the Erynx, the cunning coyotes, the roadrunner, these are not outlaws. And so the like, what cost do you think that this brute is going to be?
Yeah, that's true. That brute's going to be hard to cast.
What is like the base cost? It's like
5
mana. So like, I don't know, it's probably going to be like 4 mana a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's tough.
So I mean, a 4 mana 5/4 trample is not terrible, but it's not something that you're like all that excited about.
Yeah, it needs to be like 3 mana or 2 mana. And
Yeah,
then you double spell with it with a combat trick or something.
Yeah, well,
no combat tricks in red white though. It's tough.
Yeah, well, he's got ride down.
Oh, that's true. He's got
right. And in fact, that was like the situations I remember in some of the games. There would be a lot of points where like Seth's only out is drawing ride down. And it's like, okay, if he draws ride down, he can potentially close the game. And if he doesn't, he's just dead.
Yeah.
So, that's like, I mean, I cannot criticize Seth Manfield. We sort of going over this point.
PG player.
But like, it's a tough spot. And I think it's more indicative of like the state of aggro in this format and the state of Boros.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's true. It's good. This is a good draft. I mean, it's a tough seat.
Definitely a tough seat.
Yeah.
I can't say that I would do better. That's definitely not what I'm saying.
0-3 real fast.
Yo, for sure, especially with the caliber of opponents.
Yeah.
But I think just to advertise, we're trying to chunk up this content into 2 separate videos because there's the day 2 draft, and just to advertise that draft, we get to follow Kawa, who, it's kind of spoiler alert, wins the PT.
Yes, that's right.
With an incredible record. And Kawa's draft is kind of a similar start. To Seth's draft, but takes a different path.
Okay.
And I sort of just a little teaser. They're good paired feature drafts in that I think Kawa is faced with similar decisions to Seth, but takes a slightly different direction toward it. And it does pay off much better for him.
Look forward to it.
All right. Thank you, guys. Mickey, do you want any final plugs?
No, that's good.
All right. Well, we'll see you in day 2.
Day 2.
Okay. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. We did an hour on
nice.
that one. Jeez. All right. Do you have time to do day 2?
I'm down. I mean, you're the one who has to drive.
Yeah, that's fine by me.
We're at my house.
All right, great.